We're going to talk a little bit about some of the some of the gotchas in 3D printing that hopefully will help. One thing to remember is that we're 3D printing this with lots of little layers, but you can actually still make objects that are so thin you can't print them. There are limits to what the slicer will pick up to print with. So let's just say we wanted to create a coin, and we'll make this, let's just make it 40 by 40, but we'll make it really thin. Here we can make this, okay, I'll show a couple examples. We'll make this 0.5 millimeter thick. And it's kind of in the negative, so that's fine. Whatever. So if we export this and to STL, and then I go back to this, and we go. All right. Here you can see we do have our coin. It's very thin. And if I go to slice, now we haven't talked about slicing yet, but I just want to give you guys a couple little tips. So here you can see we have 2 layers. We've got layer 1 here and layer 2. So this was thick enough to make the slicer divide this into 2 sliced layers. So here's the gotcha to be aware of. We can actually make this so thin that now when we export it, and here, delete this. We had this one in here, and we slice that. Okay, no layers were detected. You might want to repair your STL files or check the size and thickness and retry. So that was the issue, is that it's actually so thin that the slicer couldn't figure out anything to do with it. We're slicing the models by default. We can see here by 0.2 millimeters. So you want to make sure that any features you put in there are bigger than 0.2. At least the difference from one layer to the next. Another thing I noticed, if we make this a little bit bigger again, okay, and then I'll add in just another one of these, but this one I'll make it 0.1. So there is a difference between these two, okay? There's a little gap here, and I'll take these objects and combine them, but now when we export this, so we can see that there is a little bit of a lip there, but let's see what happens when we slice it. And okay, we just happened to be able to get that. I think the reason for that is that it was right at a layer line where it did calculate that. So let's actually see if we can go back and kind of break this. Let's undo this, and we'll make this 1.4. And then when we add in our other one on top here, and we make this one 0.05, and we combine it with that one. Right. So now this one in. So again, we can still see that we do have a little bit of a lip when I go in and preview it. Okay, now that lip doesn't get calculated. So because it was like right in between the 2 layers. So imagine the 2 layers of our slice. If we put something in the middle here, the slice, because we're going to make a slice at this height and then a slice at this height, that difference isn't going to get calculated. And so that's why we don't have that, that top ring here. So you really want to keep in mind the layer thickness, which is 0.2 millimeters for most of what we're going to be doing this year. And 0.2 millimeter thickness, and just making sure that you don't have a feature that's going to get kind of clipped out from that. That is where taking it into the slicer and looking at what the slice layers are going to do can be really helpful. So I would encourage you guys sooner rather than later to try picking a slicer, whether it's Prusa slicer or Orca. I like both of them, so yeah, do whichever you like. But then once you go to the preview tab, it'll show you the slices, and then you can kind of change these sliders and see what your slices, your layers are going to look like. Now, here's one last thing I wanted to point out, and that is adding in things that we haven't talked about support, but support is really important. For instance, if I put this on top of here, even though this is intersecting the geometry, so if I select that and this and combine them, okay, so you can see there that it is intersecting. If we export this one, and come back into here, all right, when we slice it, let's think about how this is going to print. Okay, so where it's going to print these first few layers, those are all going to be kind of easy. And then it's going to get into these ones where it's not going to have a whole lot of support to print out here. It's kind of barely holding on by just, we look at that intersection there. You know, that's the intersection of what's going to print and what was printed before. So there's not a lot that's really going to hold on to it. It's going to break off possibly pretty easily. And we don't have anything really supporting out here. Now, we will get into that this actually, this isn't too bad of a print, but if the overhang is too steep, then it's not going to print very well. But we'll cover that in a future week. But just for now, just keep in mind printing out here and having a big overhang and not anything to support it can be problematic. In this case, we probably would really need to add in supports. And then if we do, we do that. Now you see this is going to generate plastic that's going to need to be broken and thrown away, or broken off the model and then thrown away to give that feature the support that it needs so that it doesn't just snap off or fail to print. So for now, we want to try to keep down on printing supports if we can. And that's just something to keep in mind, that you can't really just have something kind of jut out into the middle of nowhere without some way to keep it from breaking off. So hopefully those couple little features are helpful, and just a little bit of information on layer thicknesses and how they can play into accurate 3D prints. Okay.